Hey guys, Seaweed from Tribal Soup Project here. Welcome to another episode of SIMsational. You're watching the Ultimate Builder's Guide, and today is part 2 of chapter 10, which is all about landscape design. If you happen to miss part 1, I will leave a link for that for you down into the description below. And if you happen to miss part 1, then that probably means that you may not have subscribed and you may not have hit that bell icon to receive notifications of when a new video is released. So if you want to do that right now, then you probably should do it right now. So part 2 is going to be all about, we're going to cover some basics of how to place plants. Then we're going to go over some really important tips for creating a really pleasing look. We're also going to go over the terrain paint tools and how to create nice clean paths. And then of course we're going to go ahead and put the landscaping onto this beautiful house that we have created together throughout the course of the guide. So yeah, stay tuned for some basics of plant laying. All right, so I decided to go ahead and replace these flower beds to kind of demonstrate a thought that I wanted to give you. So all of our plants are located over here at the tree next to the little house. And we first have our trees, and some of these trees do come with different color swatches, but most of them don't have different color swatches. A lot of the shrubs don't have them as well, but almost all of the flowers will have different color swatches that you can choose. Some of them don't, but most of them do. So, and these are placed in the game one by one, like so. You place one, then you have to grab another one. But just like with any object in the game, if we hold down the shift key on the keyboard, then the game will automatically clone the next one, allowing you to place a million at a time easily. So, the thought that I wanted to kind of put into your head when you are placing flowers is to keep in mind how things in nature grow. And what I mean by this is I'm going to get rid of all of this right here to show you what I mean. So my finished product almost is always different from where I started, because I'll have like an idea in my mind and then I realize that things in nature don't really work like that. So how I actually started with this was with these, and then I came in with the white bougainvillea, and I just filled all of the rest of this space in with the bougainvillea. And it looks really, really funny. And not because it's outside. I had it inside like this. It didn't look like that. Okay. So, and that looks really weird. And the reason that it looks so weird is that it's too uniform. The shrub being so squared like this, and then only using one kind of plant that only came up to a certain height, has created something that is almost flat looking. Whereas this over here, it doesn't look like that because I used flowers and plants that are not only completely different in different colors, but they're also different heights. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of everything I just did right there. And I'm going to put this back to how it was. So the reason this looked okay, even though I only used 3 different plants, is because one of the plants I used actually have flowers that are like 3 or 4 different heights. Whereas before with like just the bougainvillea, oops, not that. With just the bougainvillea, it really, I mean, it does have a little curve, but just the way it looks, it looks like most of it is all one height, and it doesn't create the same effect as these wildflowers that have flowers that are several different heights. So you want to keep in mind when you are placing plants, the way things in nature are, and when you're creating effects, you really want to create height difference so that there is more of a three-dimensional effect that's happening and things don't look just so boxy. So it's pretty self-explanatory the way you can lay these plants. You just grab one and let's grab this one. So, and if I wanted to rotate this around, all I have to do is to right click my mouse button and I can rotate it around like so. So now if you have your move objects cheat on, that allows us to not only overlap objects like so, it also allows us to place them freely. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't snap to the grid. So when I go to place this tree, the game is automatically requiring me to have it snap to one of the grid lines. It absolutely has to intersect with one of the grid lines, whether it's the perforated one or the solid one. But if you hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, I can freely place this tree not on a grid line. I can place it anywhere that I want to. And that's something that it's really important to keep in mind when you are placing plants, especially along like a curved walkway or something. By holding down the Alt key, we can really place them wherever we want to place them. So the last thing that I am going to show you regarding these plants are these flowers, these little flower plots that we have, these flat squares and triangles and rounds. So we've got squares that we can place. We're going to go ahead and place, we're going to surround this tree with the square ones. Now, and let's go ahead and put one in the center. Oop, not that one. Not that one. This one. So let's say we didn't actually want it to be a square. Let's say we wanted it to be rounded. I'm going to get rid of these corner ones. And then I'm going to come over to the apple blossom curved. And as you can see, zooming in, these are a curve just like it does with these fences here. So all I have to do to create a circle around the tree is to use these curved apple blossoms, and then I'm just rotating them around to create a nice little circle like so. And then of course we have the ones that are triangular. If you're going to have like a flower bed that has like a line or something diagonally across, you of course would want to use these to go across that diagonal evenly like so. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is the terrain paint. And the terrain paint is located over here at this little plot of land. And when we open it up, it automatically is on the paint tool. So we have all different types of terrain paint. We have our grass and flowers. We have our stone and pavement. And then we have our different dirt and sand colors as well. So when you use terrain paint, it's only going to change the color of the actual ground. You cannot change the color of up here on your deck or inside the house. If you have like a stone path like this, and you come in here with a terrain paint, it's not going to be carried over on top of the stone. It's only going to change the color of the actual ground. And then underneath the actual terrain paint tool is we have the eraser tool, which of course is going to erase the terrain paint. So now we also have two different methods of applying. We can apply it with a circular brush, or we can apply with a square brush. And then underneath the different brush sizes and shapes, we have this little softness adjuster. So to explain what it doesn't really mean softer or sharper. That's kind of a generic term. All this softness adjuster means is it means the rate at which the paint is being applied. So when I grab my circle brush, as you can see, we have a dot in the center, we have an inside circle, and we have an outside circle. If we were to adjust this all the way up to sharp, we only have an outside circle. And then if we were to adjust it all the way down to soft, we only have an outside circle as well, because that inside circle, when we go all the way soft, it collapses all the way to the center point. And when we go all the way to sharp, it expands all the way to the outside circle. So to to explain what this actually means, the rate at which it's being applied. So if I have my adjuster all the way up to sharp, if I were to just click my mouse one time, the entire terrain is painted with, filled in the entire circle with just one click of the mouse. Where if I come adjust it all the way for it to be soft, I'm going to have to hold my mouse button down, waiting until that terrain paint expands all the way to the outside of the circle. So it simply means that it's applying the paint at a slower rate starting from the inside of the circle, which does give it an appearance of being softer. So now we're going to talk about how to apply them. So when I, the first couple years that I started building in the Sims, let's get rid of this tree and let's put a tree that's not going to like be covering everything so we can see just a little bit better. Let's put this tree. So when I started to build, one of the toughest things to get was painting the terrain. In fact, I think for the first couple years, I didn't even use the terrain paint at all because it was just such a stressful thing for me to have to do. Because it's like you're applying it and it's like I can't draw already like with a pencil or pen, and like I don't always color within the lines. So I have an especially hard time with using it. So what I want you to think about, the first situation of where you would want to paint the terrain would probably be like an enclosed garden. So let's say I have like an enclosed garden in the corner here. I'm going to go ahead and mark that off with this stone fence. So it's really, really simple to apply the terrain paint right in this one area because we know we have these firm guidelines set for us to apply that terrain paint. And what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to come over to the terrain paint and I'm going to choose, like, say, this one. And then I'm going to come in with my largest square brush. And then I am going to view from the top view. Over here at the camera controls, this little top-down view. This way I can clearly see where my paint's being applied. Whereas if I looked like this, when I come over to this section, I can't really see how far I'm going. So it's a much better view if you look from above. And I am simply going to use the grid as a guideline to apply my paint. Simply like so. Just picking it up, moving the brush, and clicking one time. And just like that, I have a completely enclosed garden area with the terrain paint exactly right. So the best way to get the terrain paint down is to start at your ending point. So I want to have a path that comes from these stairs that ends where this tree is and going around the tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my circular brush and then my terrain paint. And I'm actually going to adjust it down a little bit so it doesn't go so fast. And then I'm simply going to place it there in the center. And I can see where the center is because of the inside circle. And then I'm just simply going to hold it down and it creates that circle. Now comes the hard part of creating the path that goes from this circle over to these stairs. So it's pretty much one of those things where practice makes perfect. But you shouldn't stress on it too much. And the reason you shouldn't stress on it too much, especially as where you're just starting, is because when you do terrain paint, I see a lot of terrain paint where this will be all that's on there. But when you have like a natural path, unless it's like cement blocks or cement pavers, when you have something such as this that actually like is not something solid as if it like somebody laid it down with concrete, you're gonna have a border that goes on the outside. The color of the actual grass along the outside of where these rocks are is not going to be the same color as the rest of the yard. It's actually going to be probably have like a little bit of dirt in there. You're going to have a little bit of dirt. Then you're going to have like another color green that comes out like this. You're going to have different shadings that actually make it look natural. And when you do your terrain painting, you should do that as well, where you lay your path and then you use the different terrain paints to kind of outline that or accentuate that. And then when you have that in mind, because you're adding those different shading colors, it actually has made something that started out looking a little bit awkward look so much more better than you thought you were ever going to be able to do. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create this path. And I'm going to use, I think, this brush. Well, I'll use a bigger brush because I can go over the outside of it. So I am going to very carefully apply my terrain. And as soon as my wrist or my hand feels like it's tensing, I stop and I turn my camera and then I start applying it again. And I continue on, and as soon as I feel it tensing, I stop and I move and I start again. If you do small sections at a time like this with the stopping, then you're not as likely to make actual mistakes. So now we have completely joined it in together like this. And now I'm ready to go in with my other paint colors. So I think the natural place to go from right there is actually going to be have a little bit of dirt in it, like it naturally would along the edge. So I'm simply going to use that same technique that I used to draw lip and come down here with this color. And as soon as I feel it tensing or as soon as it gets like awkward feeling, I'm just going to release and stop and start again. And I am going to continue this with all sides of it going all the way around using that exact same technique. So the very last thing that I am going to tell you guys about the terrain paint is when you have flower beds or like a path of flowers that's going down a fence. I'm just going to create a real quick path of flowers right here. It is very important that you change the color of the terrain underneath your flowers. So, yeah, that looks fine. I mean, it looks okay. And you can leave it like that if you don't want to take the extra time. But adding actual dirt color underneath your flower beds is going to dramatically change the way it looks. The effect is kind of crazy, isn't it? Except for where I messed up right there. The effect it really adding this brown underneath the flowers has really made the entire thing pop, and it looks so much more natural than this does. So yeah, that is how you do some cool landscaping. All right, so we're ready to do the landscaping for our house. And like I had said at the beginning of the video, I'm either going to, I think I'm going to move the lot up a little bit, get rid of some of this area. Maybe I'll make the pool a little bit smaller, and that way I can have more of a gradual looking incline. And I think I'm going to probably use the terrain paint to make the little path. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Well, guys, I guess that is about it. Our house is really coming together with some really beautiful landscaping. And the way we did the plants like this, I'm really glad that I changed them in the end to be like this because this has really added so much to that three-dimensional effect. So, yeah, I hope you guys learned something from watching this, and I hope that you enjoyed the video as well. If you did like the video, please give us a nice little thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we have a new video out. Feel free to check out the website. Visit us on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, guys, happy simming, and I'll catch y'all later. Goodbye.